Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason, and today we got a recipe for you in the kitchen that is kind of near and dear to my heart because when I was a child, my dad would drive up to the fast food joint with the best breakfast, in my opinion, okay? And you could get a good bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, and you could get a good cinnamon raisin biscuit, all right? And those cinnamon raisin biscuits are delicious when they're warm and just perfect, right? So we don't necessarily eat that much fast food anymore, but Angela Kay knows how to fix them cinnamon raisin biscuits. So I'm going to turn you over to her, and she's going to take care of showing you how to make a delicious and easy cinnamon raisin biscuit.
Okay, first you want to start by preheating your oven to 400 degrees. And because I am using a cast iron griddle, I went ahead and put that in the oven so that it can preheat. If you're just using a regular pan, you don't necessarily have to do that. And in this bowl, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I have a half cup of sugar. I have 5 tablespoons of baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder. Half a teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now I'm going to take a whisk and just whisk all that together really good. That way that cinnamon gets well distributed. Because you don't want a big mouthful of cinnamon, because that would ruin the whole thing.
That's a different video, eating a mouthful of cinnamon.
Yes. That's a video we're not going to do. Now, I'm going to add in 1 stick of salted butter. This is cold from the refrigerator. Cold. You want it to cut it in cubes about like that. And you want it very cold. Very cold. Now you want to toss those cubes in the flour mixture. That way they get all coated. And then you just want to take your finger and thumb and mash the butter cubes. And it will leave like little flakes and chunks of butter, and that's what you want. And you just want to keep mashing those in. And in case I didn't say, I don't remember if I said or not, that was 1 stick, which is a half a cup. Oh, and I chose to use salted butter for that little salt aspect. If you don't want to use salted butter, you can use unsalted. Now we've got all that butter worked in. As you can see, there's some little chunks. There's some like flakes of butter. That's what you want. It makes for a lighter, fluffier biscuit than if it's all completely incorporated in. So now we are going to add, this is 2/3 cup of raisins. And I'm going to work those into the flour. You want to just work those in really good. Now I'm going to make a well in the center of my dry ingredients.
Well, you're digging a hole.
Yes. And this is 3/4 of a cup of whole milk buttermilk. You can use whatever buttermilk you like, but I prefer whole milk cultured buttermilk. And then that's 1/4 of a cup of regular whole milk.
So 1 cup total.
1 cup total.
3/4 buttermilk, 1/4 regular.
Yes. Now you want to start working your flour in to your buttermilk. There's no pretty way to do this. Just do it with your hands.
Good biscuit is done with hands.
Yes.
It just is.
Now you just work all of your dry ingredients into your wet. Now, probably depends on your day and how dry it is and things like that. You may or may not need more liquid. Because, and the oven's preheated.
Angel's got foul mouth. Keep it out, sorry.
You may or may not need more liquid. It depends on the day and how dry your house is, how dry the atmosphere is. It depends on a lot of factors of whether you will need more liquid. If you do need more liquid, I suggest using milk rather than buttermilk, because every time you add buttermilk, whole milk, cultured buttermilk is pretty thick, and it doesn't really loosen things up that well. So I would suggest using regular milk, and it looks like I'm going to have to add just a little bit. If you've seen our biscuit video, you know biscuits are to make perfect biscuits is a lot done by sight and feel. You will be able to feel and see if it's dry, if it's a little too dry and not coming together, because you want to err on the side of being very moist, because that means you'll have a moisture biscuit and you won't have a dry biscuit, because in my opinion there's nothing worse than a dry biscuit. And as you can see, there's still some dry pockets in the bottom, but it is starting to work up better. So keep some extra milk on hand when you start this process. That way you can add extra if you need to. But as you can see, you've got a nice moist dough now.
And we just added a splash, like
yeah.
maybe a large splash of milk, essentially.
It was maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't a whole lot at all. It just needed a little extra. Now, I'm going to go wash off my nasty hands, and then we'll flour our surface, and I'll show you what you do next. Okay, we have our surface nicely floured now. And you just do that by flicking the flour. But you want it nicely floured because you don't want it to stick to your surface. Now we're going to lay our dough down. And you're going to pat it out. You can smell that cinnamon. It smells really good. Now you want to fold it over. This is how you'll get flakier biscuits. If you've watched our biscuit video, then you know that's what I do. I fold it over just a few times. And you want to pat it out again.
So when you're folding that over, are you developing layers in the biscuit?
Yes, you are. You're developing layers of dough and fat, because see, you can see little pockets of butter. Yep. So you're developing layers of dough and fat. I'm going to fold it over again. Pat it out. And that's your last pat out. And you want to pat it out to about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. Depends on how thick you like your biscuits. And now we're going to get our preheated pan out of the oven. Like I said, if you're using cast iron, you always want to preheat it. You get a nice crunchy bottom on your biscuits if you do that. And it's so much better to have it preheated.
Yeah, it works really well.
Now we are going to cut the biscuits. This is my biscuit cutter. I'll leave a link in the description below to it. You want to push straight down, don't twist, and pull up. Twisting will seal the edges down and it will keep it from rising like it should. And you want to stamp them as close as you can together. That way you get more biscuits from the first roll, because you can re-roll, but you want to get as many as you can from the first. Now I'm going to dust any excess flour off the bottoms, and I'm going to start putting them on there. You can hear them sizzle just a little bit. And don't touch the pan. It's very hot. Now you want to bring your dough back together. Don't work it too much, because then you'll get tough biscuits. You'll get tough biscuit bricks instead. Now the re-rolls are not going to be as pretty as the first ones. They're just not. And you want to stamp out the rest that you can get and squeeze them onto your pan. Now this little blob of dough that is left, you just want to shape it into a biscuit with your hands. This is the dummy biscuit. That's what I always call it. This is just the dummy biscuit. And you just want to shape it out with your hands, because it's just an extra little blob of dough.
And shove it in a corner.
And shove it in a corner. Now these are going to go into the 400-degree preheated oven, and I will show you what they look like when they're done. Now our biscuits are about half done in the oven, so now it's time to make our glaze. In this bowl we have 2 cups of powdered sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. You want to just mix those two together really well. And to this we are going to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter.
Unsalted.
Unsalted. And we are going to add a teaspoon of vanilla.
Or so.
Or so.
Splash, large splash.
You guys know I don't measure vanilla. And then I'm going to add, there's 4 tablespoons of milk in here. You may or may not need all of that. You may need more. I'm going to put in about half of it to start out, because it depends on how thick you want your glaze. And you can add more milk, but you can't take it away. So don't go pouring all of it in at one time. So as you can see now, it's still way too thick. So I'm going to add the other 2 tablespoons, and we'll see from there if we need more. Because it can be anywhere, because it's all depends on how thick or thin you like your glaze. It could be as few as 2 tablespoons of milk, or it could be as many as 6 tablespoons of milk. Okay, so it's still a little too thick for me. So I'm going to add 1 more tablespoon.
That's 5. 5 tablespoons.
So that was 5 for me, but like I said, it depends on how thick you like your glaze.
That'll do it though.
But this is going to be perfect.
It is.
Now, as it sits, waiting for your biscuits to come out of the oven, it may thicken up a little bit more, and you may have to add just a splash more milk to loosen it, because it will start to thicken as it sits. But see, you've got a nice glaze now.
Yep, sure do.
Now we'll just wait for our biscuits to come out of the oven. Okay, these are out of the oven. They baked for about 25 minutes. And the last little bit, I just put it on broil to get this nice brown top. If you've watched our other biscuit video, you know that these are baked on a lower temperature than I bake my normal biscuits. It's because the sugar content in these, they will burn much easier. So you want to be careful and keep an eye on the bottoms of the biscuits. If the bottoms start to get too brown, then you want to put them on the top rack. Now, because I'm doing this on cast iron, if you are doing this on just a regular cookie sheet or something like that, you won't have to do this step. Because I'm doing this on cast iron, I'm going to pull these off and put them on wax paper to glaze them, because I don't want that glaze frying onto my cast iron. The reason I butted them up against each other is that way they will climb. If you saw my biscuit video, you will see that I explained that you will get a taller rise if you make them touch, because they climb each other essentially. And if you want a flatter biscuit, then you will set them apart from each other. Now you want to give your glaze a nice stir, and then you put on as much or as little glaze as you want. I'm going to add just a little bit more milk because it tightened up while it was sitting. So it was a little too tight. So have some milk standing by in case it gets a little too tight.
Old standby milk.
Yes, the old standby milk. Now you put on as much or as little as you like. And you can drizzle it, or you can just spread the whole top in glaze. But you want to do it while they're warm, so that it can melt a little bit. And you want to put, this makes way more glaze than you'll need, unless you love a lot of glaze.
Unless you just roll them in it.
Which some people are going to. I'm sure of that. But you want to top off all of these, and then when I've got them ready, Jason can taste them.
Look at that beautiful, beautiful biscuit. Look at that. Perfection. That's awesome. This is awesome. What a delicious, delicious cinnamon raisin biscuit that is. Better than that little fast food joint I ever thought about being. So good, so delicious, so tasty. It's gonna be such a great breakfast for us, and I'm excited about it. I got my coffee poured, got some cinnamon raisin biscuits, so I'm gonna go eat breakfast and I'm gonna get out of here, alright? So thank y'all for watching. We do appreciate it. Hey, my name is Jason. That smart one over there, her name's Angela Kay. It's Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.